Well, good morning and welcome back. Today we are going to work on another Grinch block. I don't know about you, but I am ready to see this quilt finished. Not because I'm tired of it, but because I know it's going to be so cute. So we're going to work on a block today. I've got 4 prints that I need. This is my background. As always in this quilt is white. I've got this print. I've got this print. And then this print. So I'm going to be using these 3 plus white. I wanted to use this as my back of the quilt. So in order to do that, I always like to, if at all possible, use the back print into the front somehow. So if I'm wanting this to be the back, it's got a lot of blue in it compared to all the other squares that didn't have any blue. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to incorporate some more blue into the front. And by this square right here, I've got a good start. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut my blocks. What I'm going to need first, I've already cut them to show you what I need. Let's see. I need 1 block at 4.5. That's going to be my center block. That's my focal block. So there's my 4.5 inch block. Just one 4.5 inch block. Then I need 1 at 5.25, which is going to be my background print. So 5.25, 1 block. Then I need 2 of the 4 7/8, which is this block. So 2 squares at 4 7/8 inch squares. After that, I'll go to my background and I'll need 4 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. 4 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. Then I work on my outer part of the block, which is going to be 6 2 7/8 inch squares. And also to go along with that, I'm going to need 6 white 2 7/8 inch squares. This is my background color, so whatever I had used for these is also going to be this. So 2 7/8, I need 6 of them. Same thing here, 6 2 7/8 inch squares. That's all my blocks. Now we got a subcut. Here's my blocks. I'm going to take my white, which was my background piece that was 2 7/8, and I had 6 of them. I'm going to take them and I am going to line them up. You can cut them one at a time if you want, but I'm not going to. And I'm going to cut them across diagonally just 1 time. So I'm going to turn all of these into this. So I'll do it again. Line them up. Line them up good. I'm going to press down hard on this ruler to keep it in place. And then I've got my rectangles. So I've got that piece already ready. I'm going to then take my pieces that were just like that. I'm going to take and subcut them 1 time across. Then 1 time across, and now I've got 2 sets of triangles. Those are ready. I've got this piece that I don't need to do anything with. That's the 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. They're ready. I've got this piece, which is the print. Hold on 1 second. Let me get my iron in place and iron this little fold down. Okay, well, this one's got it too. Let's see, fix that first. All right, I've got my 2 squares that are 4 7/8. I'm going to subcut them the same way. Make sure I line them up right. Don't want to cut it wrong. Okay, make sure I line them up good. Then I'm going to subcut 1 time across. And then I've got all these triangles. 2 squares turned into 4 triangles. So I've got that piece. Then I've got my white background piece, which was 5 1/4 inches. And I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna subcut it twice. So I'll do it that way. Lift my ruler. Do the same thing this way. So now I've got the 4 triangles. And then I've got my centerpiece that I don't need to do anything with. I need to leave it as is. So let's get to sewing. We've got all of our pieces cut, so we are going to put them in place. This is going to be my center block. Let me iron that little fold out. And that's going right there. Then I will take my 5 1/4 inch square that I cut into 4 triangles, and I'm going to put it around this. It's going to go just like that. My next step will be to take these and put them around that square to make a bigger square. It's going to go like that. Then I'll take these and put them in the center of each side, like that. Now these are what we've got left over, the little triangles. We'll take these and lay them, one of the prints pointed down into the corner, like that. Then I'll take a white and I'll go making that triangle into a square with the white pieces, or whatever background color you got. Now this blue is facing this way, so I want this blue facing this way, and I want this blue facing this way. Whatever way this blue is facing, I want the others facing the same. Then I'll fill it in and make these triangles into squares. That corner's done. This one is facing this way, so I want these triangles facing the same way, like that. And then the whites to make the squares. Same thing over here. This one's facing down, so this one's facing down, and this one is too. Fill it in with the whites. It'll fit better when I've got them all sewn together. Then I'll fill this in with white and fill that in with white, and that is pretty much my square. But now we got to get to sewing it. In order to sew these together, normally what I'll do is make all of these into the squares to get my smaller pieces into larger pieces. So that's what I'll do. I'll take this, line them up, and stitch down this side at 1/4 inch. And I'm just going to do the same thing with all of these. I'll string piece them together to save a little time and thread. And then I'll cut them apart Gotta get my scissors out. And typically what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and sew all of these blue and white sections, and then I will iron them and put them back in place. But for now, I'm just going to show you this corner, and then I'll go ahead and finish all the rest of the corners the same way I'm doing this one. All right, I'm going to take these. You know me. You know I'm going to cut these dog ears off. Line them up and do 2 at a time. These will be trash. And then I'll point them back at the center. All of them need to be pointing towards the center of the square. Oops, I missed one dog ear. Just like that. Now I'll do the other corners and I'll come back to you. I string pieced all of my corner pieces, and now I am just cutting them apart. I will iron them open and put them back in place. Then we'll move to the next step. All right, we have got all of these sewn together, ironed open, and dog ears cut off. So I'm just going to put them back into place. And in order to figure out how they go, you just put this one, the color pointing to the middle, and then make the others match. So to the middle, just like that. Let me push you over here so you can see it a little bit better. So I'll put this one to the center. Then I'll put this one in the same direction. So now we're ready to sew this together. What we'll do first is I'll go from the center out in this option. I could go across here. I could go down this way. Whichever way you want to go is easier for you, then that's the way you need to go. But for me, I'm going center out. So I'm going to take this block, and I'm going to take this one that was on top of it like that, and I'm going to put it right side together, line it up, and stitch down this side. We're still using a 1/4 inch all the way across this block. Once I stitch that, I will do the same thing to the other side. Take the block that was under it, line it up, and stitch on the other side of that block. So now my center block has a triangle on top and bottom of it. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to iron it open. And it's going to look like this. Now I need to take this one and sew it on there. So I'll take this one, line it up along this side, and then stitch down that long side. Same thing with this one. I'll set it here, flip it on top of each other, right sides together, and then stitch down this side. So now my center block is done. Once that side is sewn, I will open it up and iron it flat, and I've got my center block. Y'all know me with these dog ears. You don't have to do this step. They'll sew in and you won't even know they're there. I don't know why they drive me crazy, but they do. So I get rid of them. Okay, here's my center block. My Grinch I had cut to where it would sit straight like that. So there's that. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did here. Move these out so you can see what I'm talking about. Same thing I did here, I'm going to do with these. So I'll take this one and lay it on this side, line it up, and stitch down this side. Make sure I keep it straight and lined up. Iron it open. And do the same thing with this one. Flip it right sides together. Line it up and stitch down that long side. I'll iron it open. And then I'll do the same thing with these two. Right sides together, line it up, stitch a 1/4 inch. And then I've got one more to do it with, which is right here. Line it up and stitch it. Now my center is done. Get these dog ears gone again. Again, you don't have to do this step. If it doesn't bug you, leave it alone. Now I've got my center. And what I'll do now is I'll take these 3 pieces here and make them one unit. So I'll take this, lay it here, stitch down this side. I gotta make sure these blue triangles are headed the right direction. I always want them facing in. That's gonna go like that. This one's gonna go like this. Iron it open. And now this unit that sits right here is the same size as my block. I'm going to do the same thing with this side. These 3 pieces over here, I'll do the same thing. Flip it down, line it up, and stitch straight across it. Going to go like that. This one's going to go like this. And I'll stitch across here. Just make sure you keep it lined up. And then I'll iron it open. And it goes like that. Now, I'm gonna not worry about this top and bottom row yet. I wanna get this middle section done. So now that these are all the same size, I can flip this onto here and stitch down this side. But I'm going to break my pins out for this one, just so I can make sure that it stays lined up while I'm trying to stitch it, since it's a little bit longer of a piece than I was working with before. So I'll pin it and stitch down this long side. I've got this side sewn on, so I need to sew this side on the same way. Flip this over here and stitch down this line. Now I've got my center done. I just need to sew these top and bottom rows together just like this. So I'm gonna put this to the side. These should go like this. All of your rectangles in the middle, and these pointing this way, these pointing this way. So I'm gonna stitch these two together down this side. Then I'm going to iron it open. Or you can iron this whole row at the end, either way. Then I'll take this one and I'll stitch it down this side. Open it up, stitch this one like that. Exactly like they're laying, you're just going to stitch one after the other until you're done with that row. Then I'll stitch this last piece. And then when you're done, iron it open. And your piece should look like that. I'm gonna lay it to the side right here, and I'm gonna do the same thing with this row, stitching one after the other all the way across. And then we'll come back and put this together. Once you get those rows done and you put it back together, that's what it looks like. First things first, make sure all of your, whatever your color is, but mine is blue, make sure all those blue triangles are facing all in towards that corner. So now that they are, I'm ready to sew my rows together. I'll take my top row and lay it on my other row. Get that other row out of the way. Take your top and your center and start pinning them together. I'll pin my outsides, or you can go one by one. I'll take this seam and line them up, roll them to the top, and pin them. Make sure they're lined up good. Do the same thing with this seam. Take these two seams, match them together, roll them up till they end up at the top, and then you'll pin them. And then this part should just lay flat, and it does, but I'm gonna pin it right in the center so that it stays in place, and I'll stitch down this row. I'm gonna do a 1/4 inch seam. Take my pins out as I go. And then cut my thread, iron it open. You can set the seam first if you want to. And by that I mean, let me show you. Here's my block. I can set that seam, and then when I open it up, it gives a flatter, easier to press seam. Now, all I've got is this bottom piece that I need to sew on. So I'll do the same thing I did at the top. Flip it over, and I'll pin it. I'll pin my edge. I'm doing the same thing I just did. Line these seams up, roll them to the top. Same thing down here, line it up, line this seam up, roll it up, pin it, take this, and pin it down the center, and then stitch down this line. Now I'm just going to sew down this long line like we did a minute ago at 1/4 inch. Then I will cut my thread. Got several long threads. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take it and press it and then open it up. And iron it flat. Then we're going to take this and we're going to turn it 2 times, line these 2 sides up that you've already squared up, and then cut the remainder 2 sides. And what you end up with is a squared up block. Now that we've got our block made, squared up, and ready to go, I'll stick it in the stack of the other blocks until we have enough to make this quilt. And like I said, this was going to be my back fabric, and as of right now, it still will be. Now, I might change that when the time comes to put the back on it, but right now, this is going to be it. And I wanted to incorporate more blue into it since there was no blue before this point. And well, I think I did a pretty good job of incorporating some blue. So now my next couple of squares will have just a tint of blue just so it can have blue around it, maybe a little more in some and a little less in others. But I will, since the other blocks don't have blue and this one does, and I wanted the blue, I'll put a little bit in the other blocks to make it all work out, and then I'll just place them around the way I think it looks best. That is it for this block, and well, I hope you enjoyed it, and we will get ready for another block here shortly and then start pretty soon putting this quilt together. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, whatever you have in store. Enjoy it, have fun, and well, happy quilting.